Hi, everybody on Facebook and YouTube. Welcome to the weekly pet roundup. Jessica is going to try to get us in, or me, into Instagram here. So give us
All
one
right.
sec.
So we are live on Instagram, and I just invited you. Maybe,
I joined.
possibly.
I am
All
going
right.
live with
Let's.
you.
Yay! That was quick. I'm glad when it
That
goes
was
quick.
really painless today.
Yes. How are you? I'm so excited. We're continuing to talk about cats.
We are continuing to talk about cats. You guys, it's almost like the universe forced it on us.
Hi. I don't know. Okay? You're gonna have to let me know. Is that Bryce or Kenzie that joined? I'm so excited you're here. Because today we have so much more to talk about with cats, and we're even going to get a little controversial. So please stick in here with us because it's going to be so much fun and so educational. I think I'm going to get an education from from Isabel a little bit. But anyway,
maybe not. I don't know. I think
Hey,
we're both pretty.
Bryce.
I think we're both pretty. Hello,
Up to it. Yeah.
yeah.
So last week we talked about raising happy, healthy cats because September is Happy Cat Month in the US. And we are just continuing that conversation because I think there's just so much to talk about. So with cats, we're going to first jump into some different personality types with cats. Yeah, that's what we agreed on, right? Personality types. And I think we have to thank Jackson Galaxy for a lot of this because he is the cat. He is the cat daddy, right? I know he was very influential for me when I was first starting out. When I was I actually went and saw him speak 12 years ago at the Humane Society. I mean, it's a whole thing. He is an attraction all his own, and he has so much great. I think he really helped Americans in general understand a little bit better because he was on all of our televisions, and he was helping us better understand our cats. I think his mission has always been because he was working at a humane society at a shelter and doing a lot of volunteering and working with the cats there, and found his calling in understanding cats. And it has been his mission in life to help people better understand their cats to keep them from going back into the shelter, which I can so relate to. That's why I became a dog trainer originally. I didn't want dogs winding up in shelters and rescues. And so he has these 3 personality types for cats. And I think that can be really beneficial for us to kind of understand a little bit. I know it has helped me over the years understand some of my cats. My cat Romeo, who recently passed away, was definitely a Napoleon when it comes to the personality types that Jackson has for cats. We have the wallflower, he calls them archetypes. We have the wallflower, we have the mojito, and we have the Napoleon. And they kind of are what they sound like. So the wallflower cat is going to be the one that's kind of skittish, that will hide, that isn't really coming out to greet you all that much. Has maybe their person or a couple of people that they will let pet them, and that's about it. I definitely have one of these. His name is Machida. And even to this day, I have been married for 12 years, and my husband, and I've had all of my cats since before I met my husband. So even to this day, he still is like, I'm scared of Machida. I don't want to go up to Machida. He's going to bite me. He's going to scratch. And he doesn't really, he has that behavior where it's like you walk up to him and he goes, and he freaks out and you think he's going to attack you. So don't get him backed into a corner. And that's the wallflower. And the mojito is exactly like it sounds like. He is the life of the party. He is the Labrador retriever of cats, right? He is sociable. He wants everybody's attention. He's going to come up to you and flop his tail all around your legs and meow and want you to pet him or her. And they are just the life of the party. And then the Napoleons oh boy, they are too big for their britches. They definitely are the nope, I am in charge. You are going to do what I say. I am not listening to you. This is my world and you're living in it kind of attitudes. And sometimes, and I equate this a lot to even in like traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurveda or anything like that, we can change. And there's this like flow throughout life where we can change and our cats can change too. And we can have a little bit of different personality types all wrapped up into one, and that's okay. But I think it's really kind of cool to figure out what kind of cat you have. So what kind of cat do you have, Isabel?
I have a mojito cat.
Yay!
I have a
Just
mojito
like
cat all day
you.
long. Yeah, exactly. I am a mojito cat. He is a mojito cat. Yeah, he is very social. He's meets us at the door when we come home, just like a Labrador retriever dog or whatever. He is very social for a cat, right? Like he doesn't really hide from guests unless they're making him uncomfortable. I've had children come over who do not respect his space. He absolutely hides from them, and it's frustrating because some kids just don't even take that as like, a boundary. um he really likes kids though, like who are respectful, who like let him come to them. We have a very close friend. She's like a niece to us, Jaslyn, and Jaslyn has a really great energy. It's like if I could order like 18 Jaslyns as children, I would, because she's such a great kid. She's 6 going on like I don't know, like a 28-year-old professional. She's wonderful, and he loves her so much. He sits on her lap, greets her, hangs out while we have guests around. So we've had parties where he is put away only because we're scared somebody's going to leave the door open. Otherwise he would be perfectly like safe there. So yeah, mojito all day long. I mean, he definitely feels like he's the boss, and I've had animal communicators tell me that he's like, this is my house, I'm in charge. Right now there's like a dynamic thing going on with him in our new addition where he goes up to the dog and the dog snaps at him, but he's not stopping. He's not like taking the
Okay.
hint. So we're going to see how that plays out. But Van Gogh, the cat, keeps going up to my new dog, Satchmo, and sniffing him. And Satchmo like growls at him. And then you see like Van Gogh kind of like strutting slowly away. Like, I guess you're not interested in me, but he doesn't take it personally. He doesn't seem upset by it. He's just like, I guess I'll try again in an hour. And he does.
So I did have a follow-up question about Satchmo. How old is he? Because he's not young.
10.
Okay. Do you think he's having any like vision issues? Do you think he's okay there, or
No, I don't think he's having any
or
vision
hearing
issues.
issues?
I do think he needs to go for like a full workup. My sister had him in Spain where like, veterinary care is kind of like
Yeah.
you go in for illness and things. Like I don't think that they're as like big on wellness checks, just because I feel like people don't have the funds in most cases to do that. So the vets keep it really simple, which is totally cool. I love that. I think that's great. But I feel like I, as helicopter dog mom, will have to go in and be like, can we test all of these things here? And what do we need to do for that? And my vet's great with older dogs. I mean, we've had ever with her is old dogs. So I do want to get him a full workup. I know that he has some pain in his spine that he's always had.
Mm.
We found him on the street. So he may have been hit by a car. Who knows? He showed up at my front door in Louisiana, which is why he's retiring with me. Cause like if my sister had to like rehome him because for everybody's good, he wasn't going to go to anybody but me. But he could have easily been hit by a car. He was in bad shape when he came to us. So we think he might have also some chronic pain, so
Yeah.
he's been on CBD for a long time. He gets, the typical joint supplementation and all, but he's been on like, crappy kibble for his whole life. So we're trying to, improve his diet from, since he got here. But yeah, he's just like an intense dog. He's always been a little intense. And so, and he's never been around a cat ever.
Yeah.
So like, this is a totally new experience for him. And honestly, considering he hasn't tried to eat my cat, I feel like he's doing great.
Yeah, because I actually wonder if, especially with the idea that he could be in pain, if he is going to maybe lash out a little bit more than his personality would normally allow him to, because he knows he's not going to be able to keep up. because it's a young cat, and it's like, you know what? Let me put you in your place right now because this is just going to go downhill if I don't. You know?
And that's Satchmo with humans too. So
Yeah.
like he does not like to be pet. And I think it's probably because of
The
discomfort.
pain.
And they did do some kind of x-ray or something in Spain, but my sister didn't like provide any details to me. This was a while back when he first moved there. So it's been like 6 years. But I do want to get some kind of better idea of what might be going on. The vet over there said it was like his hindquarters, like the lower spine. So not sure, but we'll follow up on that. But yeah, but I mean, my mojito cat does not take no for an answer.
Yeah.
And like out of nowhere, and like when we're gone, Satchmo is in a crate so that the cat obviously does not have to worry about doing anything dumb and getting hurt while we're away. I don't know who would win that fight. You know what I mean? Because my
Right?
cat, my mojito cat's very gentle. He's really
Yeah.
very gentle. So I don't know if he knows he can do the damage that he can do. So Satchmo's created when we're not around, but when I'm home, I do hear sometimes I go, "Whoa!" And I'm like, Satchmo, be gentle. Van Gogh, leave him alone. Because
Yeah.
he's just pursuing a friendship that Satchmo does not want.
I would be willing to bet Van Gogh's going to win that one eventually.
My goal, and I visualize them like snuggling together one
Aw.
day. That's my visualization when I worry about their dynamic. I just start being like, one
Yeah.
day they're gonna be like snuggled on the bed together. Like we have big
Yeah.
dog beds, and they both are like these tiny things on this big dog bed. So there's plenty of room for both of them. And one day, hopefully, they'll share a dog bed. That's my goal.
Aw, how sweet. I could
Yeah.
see like, yeah, like one day he realized like Van Gogh like curl up next to his back, and like the healing vibrations of his purrs is gonna make him
Yes.
feel so good that he's gonna be like, okay, you can
Yes.
stay there.
Yes, I think that Satchmo needs an emotional support animal, and Van Gogh would be
Mhm.
the perfect one. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah. Aw, yay.
But yeah, so
Um,
you have you had a mojito cat? Do you have any mojito cats?
I have had mojito cats. I had one. His name was Sam. He was so amazing.
Oh, I
I
had a Sammy mojito cat.
Yes, Sammy. I always spelled it differently. Most of the time, I spelled it with an IE.
Yeah, that's how
Sometimes I
I
would spell it
spelled
with a
it.
really.
I did IE. Yes,
He
this
was
was a
the
foster cat.
best.
Yes.
Aw, he was the best. And I have had so many cats that their personalities shift constantly.
Yeah.
When a new cat comes in, their personalities shift. When a cat passes away, their personalities shift. I have a cat right now, Sissy. Her name is actually Samantha, but I had her and Sammy at the same time, and I couldn't have two Sams, so her name was Sissy, and it just stuck. And um, she, now that Romeo has passed, has coming. She has always wanted to be a mojito cat, but Romeo, being the Napoleon that he was, never really allowed her to. Always kind of bullied her. So she's honestly, she's not feeling very well right now, and but I can still tell like she wants to be that mojito cat for sure. Um, and then Riley is kind of a, I guess if I had to pick anything, it would be a mojito cat because he's not a Napoleon and he's not a wallflower, but he is kind of like he's more of like one of those like bumbling doofus kind of laughs. And I think he's definitely very chunky, very very chunky, and he's blind, and he's been blind since 2015. So I think that kind of plays into a lot of the his personality because he just doesn't like he's very confident when he knows his environment. I don't change things up a whole lot in the environment because of that. But he definitely is, he wants your attention all the time. He wants to be petted. He wants to be loved on. He wants food all the time. So again, very much lab like in that he's just always give me food, give me food, give me food. And then and then Machida is definitely that wallflower cat for sure. Romeo was a Napoleon. I've just had so many over the years that it's hard sometimes for me to even look back and be like, this is what they were, because it changes.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
and I had my cats, like my foster cats in Louisiana. I had them, two of them only like 6 months, and the other one like about a year. And so, you can't, their personalities are still changing
yeah,
too. So we
yeah,
had Charlie and Olivia, who both went to one of my husband's classmates from West Point, and I still know where they are, and I'm happy that they're happy. They have a beautiful home and lots of windows. I mean, it was great. But Charlie was our mojito cat, and then his sister Olivia was more of a wallflower. And then their other two sisters, was one of them Mohawky, which is what we called her because she was born with like a little mohawk. She was like more of a mojito cat, while the other one, Nora, we called her Nora for some Nora Jones, I think. And she was more of a wallflower. So yeah, and then once you separate them, Sammy was the fifth one that came along by himself. And oh my God, he's the only one we lost track of. And I
um,
think about him all the time, and he was amazing. He was the smartest cat I think I've ever encountered. He would like watch TV. He would chase like cats on the TV. He was super playful, play by himself. Olivia was a thief. She would steal rubber bands, like your hair bands and your
yes,
scrunchies. She would steal
yes.
them, and then you would find them like under the closet door. She just like swatted them all under there. They all had like their quirks, like they're
Yes.
individuals, like we've talked about. They all like their different things. So if you didn't watch last week, we talked about like what kind of how to observe your cat, so you know what they like. You know that they like, a wand toy with a bird, or like something more like a ball that they chase, or what kind of scratcher they like. Like mine likes the pole, other dogs or other cats like wall scratchers, different things. They have different ways of interacting with toys,
Mhm.
so like observing them. And you touched on the prey sequence, like the hunting sequence, right? Like
Yes. Yeah.
like stalking and all that, and then feeding them after that. Can you, just for anybody who wasn't here last week, just like kind of go over it, because it's such an important part of playtime for cats, is that sequence.
It really, really is so important. And I just want to say really quickly, my Sammy would actually dig in my purse every night when I would get home from work and pull the hair ties out of my purse and swat them around.
That's
It
so
wasn't,
cute.
I know, it wasn't enough to just like find them laying around. He knew they were in my purse and he would dig through my purse. It was adorable.
That's amazing.
Um, yeah, so this like hunting play sequence is so important for our cats to get those like hunting instincts out of them. And it can be really, really beneficial for anybody who's having a hard time with their cat, like settling at night, waking them up in the middle of the night. If you're going to be gone for a long period of time during the day, if you can't, you don't get a break from work for lunch, something like that, to do this before you leave so that they are getting the most out of the time that you have with them. But if we think about what happens in the wild with cats, and they do this many, many times a day. In the wild, they are not eating just once or twice a day, generally speaking. They're eating many times throughout the day, even though they may only actually catch one out of every 5 attempts to hunt and kill something. It depends on the cat, obviously, and so much else.
And
But
how big the kill, yeah, how big
yeah,
the previous
exactly.
kill was. Yes. If it was
But
a tiny little insect, it's gonna happen a lot more. Yes.
yeah, oh yes, for sure. But we want to try to run them through this hunting sequence to the best of our ability, in our homes. So we want to find some sort of toy that your cat really likes, and this can be different for different cats, and engage in them with play, interactive play, where they are actually chasing something, preferably not a laser.
Laser.
Preferably not. However, if you happen to have a cat that really loves the laser, just make sure that they have something tangible that they can catch at the end of that play session. That is really, really important, that they are regularly catching. It's okay that they don't catch every single time they
Every
jump at
time.
something. In fact, that's very natural and, like, part of the process, but making sure that they do every once in a while get to catch something is really important. So
Yeah, and I would say
finding
that if
those
you have
toys.
not but if you have not introduced a laser pointer, don't. Yeah. Like, I
Don't,
think
yeah,
most
don't,
people
please.
will agree that you should not introduce it. So if you have not, don't. This is for the people who like they didn't know any better, and the cat really
Yeah.
plays well with it.
Yeah.
Then yes, you can make them catch something at the end, give them something to eat, a treat or whatever. Let them touch or grab something like a
A
catnip
toy
toy, something
mouse or
like
a,
that. Yeah,
yeah, something.
exactly. That they can finally, because otherwise it's like a tease, right? Like they've done
Yeah.
all this hunting and they've put out all this energy and they've got nothing to show for it. So it just leaves them frustrated. You don't want to do that.
Yes.
Obviously, play should end on a really positive note, which
It
for them
should.
is eating.
Yes, and just kind of side note into that frustration piece, is really important for us to understand that frustration piece with cats, because whether it's a laser toy or, you know what, it could also be a cat that's outdoors that they can't get to. It could be birds
The
that
birds.
that they're not able to get to, and they get really frustrated and they redirect that aggression onto another cat in the household, or the dog in the household, or a child in the house. I mean, it's
Or
they
your couch. Yeah.
yes, they are going to redirect that aggression somewhere. And a lot of times people will say it just came out of nowhere. She started, my one cat started attacking my other cat. Well, okay, we need to go back. Is there a cat outdoors that's coming around at night? Is there, like, are they watching the birds all day and not getting any sort of play and stimulation that's allowing this aggression to come out? I I have a squirrel right now that, thank goodness, it stays in my backyard while my cats look out into my front yard, because this squirrel literally comes up to the back glass and like taps on the back glass because he's like, you need to put more food out. And I can only imagine that my cats would be incredibly frustrated by a squirrel coming up and tapping on the glass,
My
and they
dogs too.
too.
Yeah, like my dog, this Satchmo guy would be screaming all day.
Yeah. And I think it's the same squirrel that likes to play with Kim. It will actually it'll get in a tree and like come down just enough for Kim to not be able to like jump up and actually get the squirrel. And then it'll constantly go back up and down the tree playing with my dog. And I think it's the same squirrel.
Taunting your dog.
Very
Taunting your dog.
much.
This squirrel is a jerk. This squirrel is bored and needs a new hobby.
Squirrel is bored. But I mean, something like that can be very, very frustrating for your cats. And so this redirected aggression is not unusual. So even if, like, I love giving my cats the uh, the windows to, like, I crack the windows, they have the screens, they're getting the fresh air, they can see and hear all of the birds and the squirrels and the crickets and all the things. And I play with them. And that helps them to, okay, they've got all this pent up, like, I want to get that bird or whatever it is. And then they can take that aggression out on these toys that they're playing with.
And these
But
sequences are not related to the personalities we talked about. Diane is asking what a mojito cat is. That's one of the personalities we talked about that Jackson Galaxy shares. Where one of them is Napoleon cat, who's the boss and is too big for his britches, a wallflower cat who kind of lays low and prefers not to be the center of attention, and then you have a mojito cat who is super, super social, kind of like your dog cat or cat dog, whatever people call him, where it's like that dog, that the cat displays kind of aspects of what we expect from a dog rather than a cat. So like just like personality traits. But I have a mojito cat, and one day I will bring him up because like he's usually up here. Let's see. My husband's home now since my husband retired or is retiring. So now he's not up here with me. Now there's somebody else in the house. And so he like hangs out up and down. But this play sequence, this hunting sequence is irrelevant of personality. Like this is just a need from cat, like for cat. It's a biological need for
Yes.
cats. And like
All cats.
probably it's the same thing that is happening at zoos, right? Like literally the same thing that they're doing for the big cats at a zoo or a sanctuary. They're doing this play sequence, probably with real meat and probably with real prey. Unfortunately, I have seen, I think it was at the El Paso Zoo here where I saw, was it, I don't remember what animal it was. It was a mammal. It could have been one of the big cats, and they had like a little white bunny that was just kind of like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is just, this is just normal, what they would do in the wild, right? So we provide that enrichment at home just to keep them at peace, at ease,
Yes. Yes.
feeling good, using their bodies, exercising, enjoying themselves. So all the things that we do.
Yeah. So in the wild, they are going to find something to stalk and they're going to stalk it. And that's what we
Yes.
want to imitate when we're playing with our cats. We want to try to be very intentional about the movements that we're making with the toys so that they have the time to kind of assess if we can make it actually act like a cricket or a mouse or whatever it
Yes.
is.
Yes, because cats are really good about giving you feedback and being like, that's not convincing. I'm like not into it at all.
Exactly. Let them stalk it, let them hunt it, let them catch it a few times. Get a really good 10-15 minute play session in with your cat to where they're missing it sometimes, they're catching it sometimes, and always end with giving them either their meal or a snack. Because that would naturally end that prey sequence for them when they actually catch and eat. Sometimes, and my cat King Tut, when we lived out in Chesapeake on 3 acres, and Tut was an outdoor cat, Tut and Romeo both were at the time, and he would literally chase a cat around 3 acres. I'm sorry, he would chase a field mouse around 3 acres, catch it, and let it go so he could chase it again. And he would just continue. I mean, it was horrible to think what this mouse was going through, but also very natural for him, for my cat. And eventually, when he was ready, he would just eat it, eat the mouse. And so that's kind of the thing that we want to provide for them. And then when they do, they eat their prey and they will then clean themselves. That's their natural sequence. And then they're going to sleep. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Wild. And so this is why it's a really good thing to do right before you leave for work, or right before you're going to bed, to give you
Ideally both. Yeah. I feel like ideally, if you can do it like first thing in the morning, wear them out so you can leave to work, and then do it before bed, then you'll be able to sleep overnight without them waking you up because they're bored, right?
Yes.
And during the day, they won't be sitting around kind of like uncomfortable and anxious because you'll have gotten that pent up anxiety out. And I always recommend professional pet sitters. We know that professional pet sitters do like dog walking. So they'll come to your house while you're working, take your dog out to pee. Your cat may not need that, but your professional pet sitter can come to your house while you're at work and do this. And if they're a professional pet sitter, they know about this hunt sequence. They're doing that. They're maybe bringing their own toys sometimes, like as a gift to get something new, because toy rotation is really important for kids, cats, dogs, everybody. So keeping it new also helps. So like if you're using the same exact wand toy every night, it's going to get a little monotonous for your cat. So the professional pet sitters can come in. They'll even scoop your litter box while they're there. So it's one less thing you have to do when you get home, or just it's cleaner when you get home, whatever your preference is. So I definitely feel like if you have a hard time keeping up with these play sessions, because real life, that's it. That is
it's okay, Scott.
if you don't have the time, call on a professional. Cats don't get that love. Like everybody's like, oh, of course I have a dog walker, but why don't you have a cat sitter? Why don't you have somebody that once or twice a week, or even if you can afford it 5 times a week, comes over and engages with your cat? Like, it's like a play date for your cat. It'd be perfect if you don't have the time. So always know that you have those resources available. Most places have them. The National Association of Professional Pet Sitters is a great place to look for a pet sitter. Pet Sitters International is another one. Those are the only two recommendations I have. I do not recommend Rover or Wag. That is not something that I would ever endorse unless they make some serious changes to their platform and their terms of service. So
Yeah.
just know that it's only the National Association of Professional Pet Sitters
Thank
and PSI Pet Sitters International that I would recommend. And then there's also like what we were talking about, the outdoors and like how important it is to make sure that they're not getting stressed out by the outdoors, right?
you.
But
Yeah.
there's also a
Yeah.
huge benefit to cats being outdoors, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
there's, you and I both believe in like grounding ourselves
Yep.
on the earth, feel it going barefoot
Yep.
outside and touching dirt. And Dr. Karen Becker was talking about how she loves to garden and she thinks it's because her body craves that connection with dirt. And I think our cats do too. So unfortunately, most of our cats are indoor, and we are going to talk about how important it is to keep them indoors.
They
But
are.
because your cat is indoors, they don't often get fresh air. They don't often get to touch grass. They don't
Yeah.
often get to, climb a tree. And I had a client way beyond before this was like a trend where he was harnessing and letting his dog or his cat go on a dog leash because there was no such
Yeah.
thing as a cat
Yeah.
harness at the time. He was letting her in his little townhome just climb the tree outside for like 20 minutes a day or every few days.
I love
And
that.
she like loved it. She never ran away. She never did anything dangerous. She would just go and like touch the earth, touch the grass, and touch that tree and climb the tree trunk. And it was really healthy for her. So we wanted to
Well,
talk about the importance of catios, backpacks, leashes, all that, with obviously
you
some caveats about safety.
you remember when I was at the More You Know Pet Wellness Summit, and when we did the recap after that, and I was telling you that Rodney was talking about a particular bacteria that you can only get from healthy soil, and if you don't have this, you're not digesting protein. It's called fusobacteria. And so if we think about, we have a cat that's 18 years old and has never been outside of the house, and they're really not doing well, they're not healthy, they're having a really hard time. Like, I mean, this is just one of a billion things to think about, but like, are they even able to digest their food properly? Like, they're not touching the earth like they're meant to. They're
It's
meant to.
unnatural. It's really
Yes.
unnatural for us to keep them like in our homes forever for 18 years without touching anything. There are ways to bring that natural environment in, like cat
Yeah.
grass, for example. That's a really good start. They can
Yeah.
get some fresh grass. You can grow some catnip, obviously organic, plant it in some organic soil in case they get into
Mm-hmm.
your, if you have plants like I do and a cat that likes to explore the plants, they'll get a little bit of that nature, but like they're not
Yeah.
going to ground themselves outside, which is really
So
important to all of us.
it is. Scott is asking because he does not have cats. Why don't cats get taken on walks? I'm just gonna throw out there that it's because they're a pain in the butt.
Well, no, I think
But
I
not
think that
all
there's a lot of
cats.
it. There's a lot of things. One, it's the margin of error. There
Oh,
is
it's
no
huge.
such thing. Yeah, there's no such thing as a non-slip, like slip-proof harness for cats. There is
There
not. It doesn't
isn't. And
exist.
I will tell you, this was back when I was 20 years old. I had purchased cat harnesses and I was moving from Virginia to South Carolina, and I had my cats in harnesses, and I was walking up to a hotel because we drove. I was walking up to a hotel with my cats in their harnesses that I had them in, that I had been practicing with them for weeks, and one of my cats like Houdini flipped and got out of the harness.
Yes, that's very
I'm
typical.
like,
So
how?
basically, you want to make sure it's not like putting on a harness on a dog. Three
Yeah.
dogs on the right harness are safe, right? It's like it's the equivalent of putting a skittish dog on just the collar and the collar's too loose. Like
Yeah.
that's what the equivalent is. Like that the dog will just like back out of it. That's what
Yeah.
happens with cats with
Yeah. Yeah.
harnesses designed for cats. So it just doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing. And people obviously are scared to lose their cat. People are scared that their cat's going to like get scared and run away. There's also the reluctance of the cat to accept the harness and leash. I agree. A full bodysuit with a D-ring on the back sounds
Mhm.
perfect. I actually I'd be totally into that. Let me know how I can invest in this business
Yeah.
venture, Scott.
Like that
Um,
surgical suit that that dog is in.
exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
Your your super zoo dog. I forget the name.
Bella.
Bella. Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna need to get some like truly, this is biceutical. This is actually for recovery, surgery recovery, hot spot recovery, itchiness, whatever, dermatitis. It's an actual t-shirt that is pretty compressive, so it's nice because it also does the compression thing. This is not sponsored by Biceutical. They were just a vendor at Super Zoo. You should follow them because I love their products. Or is this here? But they just did like this fun thing, and I found Bella, and Bella and I explored Super Zoo together. But yes, something like that would work way better than a harness. Cats
Mhm.
also would probably take better to this than a harness. Whenever you put a harness on a cat, and I had Emily from Kitty Cat Go Adventures on my show, and we played like a game where I was like, what's like your biggest pet peeve? And she's like, that people just stop the first day. Like they put a harness on a cat and they're like, he hates it.
Yeah. Of course. Of
It's
course
the
he
same
hates
thing
it.
with, yeah, it's the same thing with baby wearing, right? Like
Mhm.
your baby just wants you to carry it. That's what's most comfortable for your baby, but that's not the most comfortable thing for you. So we baby wear. So I like as a mom, as a cat parent, as a dog parent, like I recognize that new things are not going to be accepted very readily. So you need to go into any kind of harnessing, any kind of t-shirt, any kind of anything, knowing that there's going to be a resistance period and an acclimatization period, which is
Yeah.
totally normal even for us. And I've said this before, like the first time a girl puts on a bra is not necessarily her best day ever, right? Like it's
No.
uncomfortable,
No.
it's restrictive, it's
I
the same
remember that
idea.
day. I remember that day because I had never worn one before and I forgot that I had it on and I got in the shower with it on because I was just
We
getting undressed
Yes,
and I
exactly, because
forgot.
you're
I'm
not
like,
used to
I
it.
wasn't used to it.
So yeah, so that's the biggest thing. And I work with a lot of pet sitters, and they would love to offer cat walking services. Okay. But again, it's like, is the pet sitter going to provide the equipment? What's the equipment going
Yeah.
to be?
Yeah.
What insurance company is going to cover this? Because obviously, like the risk is high. So it becomes
There.
really difficult. So that's why you need to know your cat's personality. If your cat is a wallflower that's scared of everything, you don't need to be harnessing them and taking them outside. Maybe just a stroller is more their speed. Yeah.
Love strollers and the
Backpacks are great options too.
mhm.
Maybe you like, I have a patio that is now a catio. It was always here.
Yeah.
But it's a great way for him, my cat, to be outside. He gets connected with nature because there are little bugs that come in, or, we have plants out there, and he smells the earth and he smells things. The vac, the Catium seal harness. I love that.
Yeah. No, we're not vacuum
I'm
sealing our
serious,
pets.
Scott. I'm serious. Vacuum seal them. I mean, I'm good with it. If it's like a comfy vacuum sealed, like, I mean, vacuum seal me into something. I don't know. I don't care. Like, I'm imagining like Britney Spears in that
Oh
video
my
where she's
gosh,
wearing
that
like
leather
the
thing.
red vinyl.
Yeah.
Yeah, the red
Yeah,
vinyl
yeah.
outfit. That's what I'm imagining for cats, like a Britney Spears like cat suit. For our cats that they cannot get out of. But we can't make it vinyl because I feel like it'd be a little hot and not breathable
Yeah,
at
that
all.
would be very hot.
But yeah, it would be really good to have our cats go outside safely. So if your cat is like, my cat's an adventure cat. He's been traveling with me. He goes on harnesses. He loves to go for walks. He doesn't want to go too long though. So like I can
Yeah.
tell that if I'm planning on going longer than like our usual, just around the block, which is a pretty big block, he doesn't want to go. Like I know that about him, and I respect that about him. But if I'm gonna just do the round the block, he's coming with me. If it's cool enough that he's gonna be safe in the backpack. I've gone to two different backpacks. I started with a backpack that was completely enclosed. Now I have the bubble backpack that has like the little bubble, like it's kind of like a spaceship, and it comes out. There's backpacks that are cooled and they have like airflow inside. Because I only really use them when it's cool enough. I've never invested in that, but if you live somewhere where it's like really humid, you might want to do that because, you know, we have breeze here. I'm on the mountain. So if
Yeah.
it's cool enough, then he's got to have airflow. But like Miami's a swamp, DC swamp, New York swamp, where you feel like it's just like the air's hanging heavy. One of those airflow would be great. And nowadays, you don't have to even spend that much money. Like I was just at Home Goods yesterday, and they had a beautiful harness for cats or dogs, and it was really well made. I actually interviewed a company. Oh my gosh, what are they called? Wonder, what is it? Wonder, I don't want to say it wrong. Wonder strollers.
Well, that's
Wonderfold. The Wonderfold brand. Wonderfold they started with human strollers like for kids, and now they make a huge line of strollers. They are an investment, but they're reinforced. Like they have like a special mesh that your cat will not tear into. So if you're scared and you're, you know, you really want to do this long term, consider Wonderfold. Again, not sponsored, but they make really great products. So look for stuff that will get your cat outside safely, so that they can enjoy the outdoors and not be like completely disconnected from their nature.
Yeah,
But of
and but to
course,
get that more like grounding, that's where I think a catio or some sort of, I mean, some people don't have like a full catio, but they can have like almost like chicken wire tunnels that,
yes,
hi, Bronwyn,
yes,
thank
and
you for being here.
actually, even for people in condos, they make the pop-out window catio.
Astronaut suits. Scott said astronaut suits. I love that.
Perfect. We're gonna call on NASA here in a minute and ask them if they'd be, or
We'll
Space Force.
talk to you.
Space Force.
Yeah. So, well, or just SpaceX.
Isabel, I want to talk to somebody about
I know.
cat suits.
Call up Elon. He's here outside of Bastrop, right? In
Yeah.
Austin. Yeah, we'll just call Elon.
We're gonna call Elon. I have him on speed dial, which is not at all true.
No,
Yeah.
no.
So just kind of seeing what you have to work with in your home. If you do want to walk them, making sure that, and again, when it comes to being grounded, they don't need to be out very long, right? So like they don't need to be out as long as like a 45-minute dog walk, right? Like they could be out for 5 minutes and be super happy having touched the ground and come back in. So don't overdo it for your cats. Watch your cat's behavior. Give them time to acclimate in the house to the harness. Do not just like put the harness on and then take them outside. That's way too much overstimulation, way too much new novelty is not always good for cats. They don't really love it. So play it safe. Even if your cat seems ready to go outside, maybe just do like your stairs. Or maybe if you do live in a condo, once your cat is comfortable in your house, maybe do like a stairwell where if it's closed, start there. See if they'll go down a couple stairs. If not, you know, just stay in one, you know, at the top of the stairs, let them sniff around. That's something that's new environment and enrichment. But really the most important thing is your cats will be happiest always indoors in the safety of your home. And this is where it's going to get controversial in our last 10 minutes. We have to address the people are eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the pets. They're eating the cat.
The dog. No.
They're eating the dog.
I want to know if anybody got my joke in the stories when I posted the song with the
I don't practice Santeria.
I ain't got no crystal ball. That's a very violent song.
We don't practice Santeria either.
No,
but we were discussing how, you know, Donald Trump, former President Donald Trump, talked about an alleged situation that's happening in Ohio. First of all, there was a confirmed criminal situation, but it wasn't in Springfield. It was not a migrant either. And that is animal cruelty that happens all over the world in the United States. But whether or not there is a community of people eating cats is still being discussed. It's not being dismissed. There's a lot of rumors. There's a lot of things. You don't know why the rumors are starting. You don't know if they're true. You don't know if they're not. But this is from somebody who is an immigrant right here. I have never eaten a cat. I have never eaten a dog, not on purpose, at least. Maybe some, you know, in a developing nation where I visited, they might have
Yeah.
fed me that without me knowing in a restaurant, because these things
They
do happen
do.
outside the
Yeah, for
US.
sure.
So I don't like the generalization, obviously, of immigrants eating pets.
Yeah.
However, we all know that I'm from Miami, and there is Santeria in Miami. That's why she played that song when we were
Yes.
addressing this, because I was like, I need to address the
Oh,
fact that
period.
in Miami, in the 80s, for example, I remember being told like the houses with like a lot of like saint statues
Mhm.
are they are practicing Santeria,
Yeah.
and they eat chickens, and like they grow chickens, they raise chickens, and then they eat sacrifice them
Sacrifice them,
and then
yeah.
eat them and use them in rituals and stuff. So this does happen in many cultures, not just the Haitian
Yes.
culture.
No.
Haitians practice voodoo. I mean, there's
Yes.
people who supposedly practice voodoo in New Orleans, right? Like we know
Oh, yeah.
that there at some point in history has been
Hoodoo.
voodoo,
Yeah.
voodoo,
Mhm.
all those things. There are a lot of places around the world that eat animals from the
Mhm.
street because of
Yeah.
poverty.
Yes.
So we, as an American society, and I mean, I've been here since I was 3 years old. We're very sheltered in the realities of how the world works. We really are.
We are.
Um, we're super diverse, but it almost feels like most of the immigrants that come here kind of like leave these things back home and they acclimate because it's
They
always better for them to
assimilate
do
pretty
so.
well usually.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
and it doesn't serve them in many cases to bring these customs with them.
Right.
So we are not saying it's happening. We are not saying it's not happening.
Yeah.
What we're saying is if you love your cat or your dog, they need to be indoors. Not only is there a threat potentially of somebody sacrificing them, and by the way, this is not new. I've talked about this on my Halloween show all the time around
Yeah, that's what I
Halloween,
was gonna
Friday the
say. We're
13th. We
we're
just
like
had a Friday
6
the
weeks
13th.
away. Yes. We're like 6
Yes,
weeks away
and
from
people
Halloween.
do.
A lot of shelters won't adopt out black cats for weeks before Halloween because
Exactly right.
even though, yeah, you may not be you may genuinely be wanting to come adopt a cat. It's just too risky. It's just too risky
Correct.
for people. And it is so easy for people to get away with that kind of thing. Um, that it just makes sense. I get it. I get it.
Correct.
Please do it.
Exactly. And it's not just other people, right? Like, yes, Halloween, no black cats are being adopted because we know for a fact that they are used in rituals in this country by Americans.
Yeah.
Okay. But not by migrants. So let's just be very clear about that.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
connection to what religion or sacrifice they're doing, nobody knows, nobody wants to know. And I don't even want to say the
Yeah.
word that is related to that. But there is the human aspect of an outdoor cat and I mean, people
There's
who are
also
poor.
wildlife.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah. I
people
mean,
who are
that's a real
poor
threat
are
too.
gonna if a person who's poor, hungry, finds a chicken on the street that
Yeah.
it's your chicken, your flock, and it got out, like it's just as easy for them to like kill your chicken and eat it than it is to go to the store. It's cheaper to just get your chickens. That's why they're saying that like geese are disappearing, ducks are disappearing, and in certain areas. Well, I mean, if they don't like if that's part of their culture and that's what's happening, then that's what's happening. So we just need to make sure that we take care of what we can, which is protecting our pets. And I live on a mountain, and like 2 houses down, years ago, there was this tiny little corgi looking dog, and all of a sudden he went like from well to not well. He was like limping, and I'm like, what happened? Like, did he get hit by a car? And the mom's like, no, I think it was a hawk. Hawks come down and like pin, like they
Mhm.
kind of like break the neck of their prey before
Mhm.
they fly off of it. And so she thinks that the hawk tried to like do that, and it injured the spine very seriously. He limped for months. He had like rehab, all sorts of stuff. Thankfully, he didn't die. She was there in the yard. So she thinks that her screams kind of like made the hawk
Yeah.
go away. But yes, owls, birds, other animals, coyotes. I mean, in Southern California, I just saw, I think it was a vet talking about no, it was actually our friend Meredith from the dog spa. She was
Oh.
talking about, and I shared it on my stories. She was talking
Oh,
about,
oh, oh.
the vests that they use for
Scary.
dogs. Yeah.
Yeah. With the
Um,
spikes on them
with the
for
spikes.
coyotes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, when we
So these
were
things happen.
when we were in Chesapeake, on the 3 acres that we were talking about earlier with my cats running around chasing the field mice. We also had a little Chihuahua who, by the way, was half the size of any of my cats, like
Exactly.
tiny. She did not go outside because even if we were with her, if we had her on a leash, there was too much of a threat of the owls and the hawks getting her. I mean, they didn't care that we were
Yes.
there. They did
No.
not care.
They're
Um,
quick. They know it.
Yes, they're very quick. She didn't go outside. I mean,
Yeah.
she did. I'm not going to say she did,
Right.
but
On a
it
leash,
was
maybe when you were right there.
it
Yeah.
was very intentional. Certain times of day, like, midday, we wouldn't do dusk, like when we're better able to see things and be aware, be alert, be on the lookout. Um, so yes, she touched ground, she touched grass, but it was rare. Like she
Yeah.
literally, like, puppy pads were her.
Yeah.
That's what she used more
Yeah.
than
Yeah. Yeah.
anything. She was just too tiny for that
Yeah.
environment.
Correct.
And of course, when we moved to San Diego, we just left the back door open and she would go in and out all she wanted and loved it. But you just have to be aware of
Yes,
what's
and
going
we
on
talked
around you
about
and where you live.
coyotes too. We
We
talked about
did,
coyotes too
yeah.
earlier this year, sometime in February. I think it was January because I was in Spain with my sister. And we talked about how they scale. They can scale. So like you might have a dog that has a doggy door. They will scale like 12 feet, 15 feet to get into your yard to eat your dog. Our bird friends, they don't have to scale anything. They just
Nope.
swan dive right into your yard, get
Yep.
your animal and move on. So when it comes to safety, we can't stress enough that we are 100% for indoor pet cats.
Yeah.
100%. Obviously, we can't bring every cat in because there
Yeah.
are community cats, there are stray cat communities, there are, TNR programs that serve these communities, not enough, but there are out there. So it's really, really important to know the difference. Your pet cat, unless it's a feral cat that like you feed at night, needs to be in your house. Obviously the cat communities, that the feral community cat communities, are obviously like at risk for anything like what we just discussed, but at least we control them by doing TNR. We vaccinate
Yeah.
them so that they are not a risk to other cats and other wildlife, et cetera, et cetera. But you have to, if anybody is in an area where you're worried for your cat's safety, like why is it even still going outside? That's
Yeah.
my
And I
question.
mean, I think for me, the reality is whether you want to believe it's happening, whether you don't want to believe it's happening, that's up to you. I'm not here
Correct.
to ask you to believe one thing or the other. What I do know is that is many cultures have, many cultures, many religions have animal sacrifice as a normal practice. I'm not saying that that's right or wrong. I'm not here, that's not for me to say. But whether you believe it, whether you don't want to believe it, it's never a bad decision to be more cautious and take care of your pets and keep them
Of
inside.
course. If you have a cat that is not adjusting to the inside world, there are cat behavior consultants out there. I love the Cat Behavior Alliance, Rita and Linda. There's also Think Like a Cat, Pam. There are animal communicators that might be able to guide you. We love the Animal Communication Collaborative. And Pam Rousseau she's with Perfectly Holistic. She has staff members that do animal communication. There are ways to transition your outdoor cat or indoor outdoor cat to only indoor. It will be an adjustment period, but obviously it depends on how committed you are to this cat and its life. It's long life, and its health and its wellness and its safety. So don't feel like it's going to be a nightmare because there are ways to transition it, and it just is a good idea. And like
It is.
my opinion about the debate is that the debate got derailed with all this nonsense. And I'll say nonsense just because, again, we don't know if it's real or not. I used the audio. I shared a reel because I do think I outside of reality, right? The internet's not reality. We know that. It is really funny what people are doing with that, with the quote, right?
I have wanted to do a reel with it so badly, but I'm trying so hard not to be political. And
Well, mine was not political. I just thought it was hilarious to put my
I
three
just
pets
feel
like
like people are gonna
kind of like
take it as
reacting.
being political.
Got
Like,
it. Okay.
you know,
Well,
like, I don't know. That's just my
I feel
take.
like as being a Latina and being an immigrant, I feel like people
Yeah.
already assume for me where I'm at. And I'm actually very moderate. I'm actually right in the middle. Big surprise. So I did share it. I think it's really funny what people are doing. The Katniss is something that my kids follow on YouTube. It's a I think it's a South African band that like uses cat sounds. Like, like some cats are really vocal.
Yeah.
And so they'll get a video from one of their millions of followers and they'll use that to create a song. So they'll use like whatever cat vocalization and they'll make a whole song out of it. And of course, the Katniss use they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the cats. Like they made a whole like song about it. I shared it in my stories because really it is a pop culture moment. It's really funny.
There are a lot of
See
talented people.
Dolce's legacy. Bronwyn saying, "I'm gonna just say there are a lot of talented people out there. It's really funny, and like we need to laugh a little bit, but we also need to just we cannot control what the rest of the world does. Like
Yeah.
I'm in El Paso. I have no control over Ohio in any way, shape, or form. I'm way too far away to even care about what's happening over there because there's so many issues happening right here in my backyard, right,
Yeah.
literally in my
Yeah.
backyard because El
Yeah.
Paso. So I'm not worried about what's happening in Ohio. I hope that their local government and their people are taking care of that while we're over here doing what we need to do for our community. But I do think that we can start with our home. Our home,
Yeah.
what happens here is what matters. So taking care of our pets, making sure that they're on proper leashes and harnesses when you take your cat out, investing in a stroller if you're not brave enough. One thing that I will say to any pet sitters watching, why are you not offering stroller walks for cats? Like that would be so fun. That would be safer. It would be
Yeah.
something that cats could enjoy, maybe that the pet parent doesn't have time for or whatever. So something to consider. But, always remember to go back to those personalities we talked about. And what it is that your cat would like to do. Not forcing them just because you saw some cool video on like Emily again. I'll say it's Emily from Kitty Cat Go Adventures, and like she has amazing stuff. Like also the Cast Pack, she takes her cats camping and stuff. Like you may not go there. That may not be for you and your cat. Just go outside your house, start small. If you're in a condo, consider like one of those window catios. Do something where you're at and just make that safety the priority, because we obviously want to meet their needs, but we don't want to meet their needs so badly that we put them in danger.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. I think that was
They're eating the
best you could.
dogs. They're eating the cats. The cats.
I still
the cats. They're eating the
like
cat.
it's a bop for sure. But like I still can't get the Santeria song out of my head. Like I literally since you
Since I
texted
said
me the
I'm from Miami, I mean
yeah.
Santeria. And yes, if people didn't know, like just a little background, Santeria at Haiti and Cuba and all these areas, they have a huge influence of African culture and African religions, and so
Yeah.
all of these things evolve. Santeria is kind of like voodoo and Catholicism in one, so you have a lot of like the worshiping of the saints, which we don't do in Catholicism. We pray to our saints, we don't worship them. In Santeria they worship them and sometimes slaughter animals in their honor, and it's very dark, it's very scary. It's very common in Miami still. Like I remember growing up and my Cuban friends being like, oh, they're santeros. And we'd be like, oh, really? Ooh. I mean, obviously you may not know it. They look like you and me, but what they do at home and their rituals is their business.
It is. I again, I would have a hard time doing it myself, but I I'm not mad at somebody for practicing their religion. I do think that most people, especially when they do legally immigrate into other countries, because it is a better situation for them, whatever the reason may be, tend to at least try to assimilate some into the culture that they are coming into. And Scott says the real question facing the nation is how do we get the astronaut suit built? We will contact Elon, I promise. But you know, that assimilation does take time, and they have to want to assimilate as well. Like there's a whole thing. So just keep your pets safe.
Yeah.
And that's the
Yeah,
best we
and
can
actually,
do.
just so that you know, I had a question about it because obviously legality, right? Ritual slaughter is permitted in the United States under certain conditions. There is a Humane Slaughter Act. There's a religious exemption. Livestock raised for food in the US must be rendered unconscious before slaughter, but there's an exception for animals that are slaughtered according to religious requirements where they're not allowed to be sedated before. Animal sacrifice is a form of religious expression. So religious groups are exempt from animal cruelty laws when it comes to animal sacrifice. Again, this is a thing. We are very sheltered in the United States. This stuff happens all over the world. And when you start looking into it, you start realizing, wow, this actually is permitted in the United States. So it's more reason for me to make sure my cat's not one of these.
Well, and I mean, we have a lot of religious freedom in the United States, and that's another reason why a lot of people want to come here.
Exactly.
Know? So,
literally why we were founded.
Exactly.
Yes.
So it's I don't want to get political. Like, I'm happy to one-on-one get political with people, but I don't want to get political on a public forum. It's too right now. I don't want to do it.
Especially right now. We can talk about it after the election.
After the election, we can talk about it.
After inauguration, I feel like is like a safe time to be like, well, this is my opinion. This was or was not my candidate. But right now it's too heated.
It is too heated. But the reality is that we can all use some education in our lives. Like, we can all stand to benefit from just doing a little Google search and saying, hey, you know what? Could this actually be happening? Is this something that Haitians do? And I'm not saying that they're the only one. Obviously, we've already covered that. Lots of different religions do this. Lots of different cultures around the world do this. But just, take it, I think, look at it, take it as an opportunity to like educate yourself on something you didn't know.
Yeah, and I worked for Air France in Miami during college, and we had Haitian flights, and most of the Haitians I worked with did not practice this at all. They were mostly Catholic or some kind of Christian, not at all voodoo, not at all anything like that. But I remember sometimes the bags were delayed coming in from Haiti, and like there were things in the bags sometimes that were like sacrifice stuff, and we would know because it smelled so bad because they thought it was going to be like an hour to get to Miami or 2 hours to get to Miami, but it's like 3 days later because their bag was delayed. So like these things we don't want to, again, like as an immigrant, the only thing I can leave you with is generalizations are dangerous, because just because I'm from Ecuador and Spain doesn't mean that I am the like quintessential Ecuadorian or Spaniard. And a lot of practices, for example, bullfighting in Spain, my family historically has been against. My grandfather, born 1922, did not do bullfighting. It was not for him. He thought it was cruel and unusual and horrible. Whereas my sister dated a guy, in 2000 who loved them. So, you know what I mean? It's not even generational sometimes. So like, it's just we can't make generalizations. We also can't live in a world where we think that it's super safe to do things that are irresponsible, because there are threats out there. So just, if you take nothing else, just know that whatever the threat is, you can prevent it by just keeping your cat inside.
Please. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for joining us again.
Yes. Are we on next week or are we off next week?
You don't practice Santeria?
I don't practice Santeria.
You said I don't, and I was like, practice Santeria. Yes, you do. You have a crystal ball. What nonsense are you talking?
I had $1,000,000, but I spent it all. We are going to be live next week. So we'll
Yes,
figure
we are going to
something
be
out.
live next week. If you guys want to do like an ask me anything kind of thing, that'd be fun. I know that our friend Diane was asking a question earlier.
Oh,
Just to
yes.
answer your
I did
question,
see that.
Diane,
It
we got kind of
depends.
cremation is very common in the United States. She's Diane is our friend who joins us weekly, and she lost her Tigger a few weeks ago. And she was asking about whether or not it's common to cremate a pet, or do most people choose burial? I actually think it's much more common to choose cremation because a lot of people don't have the option to bury, and like there's like
Yeah,
a lot of like local jurisdictions that won't allow you to bury
yeah, I think
your
it depends
pet.
on where you live. Like if you live out in the country, especially if you have like generational property land, I think a lot of
Mhm.
people like that will bury their pets. But living in the
In
city, I
urban
think,
environments, yeah,
yeah, I
you're
think most
cremating.
people
And
cremate.
one thing I will say, just because a lot of people don't know, here in the United States, you have two options, and this probably happens everywhere, where there is an option to cremate your pet. You can either do like a communal cremation, or you can do an individual cremation. If you plan to have your pet's ashes, do the individual cremation. Otherwise, you will not know if those ashes are actually your pets. So
Yeah.
remember, communal is if you don't plan on keeping the ashes, no judgment if that's just not your thing, if that's not part of your religious belief or your spiritual belief, you don't have to. I keep my ashes, so I always do individual cremation. And I don't know what I'll do with those ashes, but they're downstairs in my living room,
I've
in our
always said that
family
I'm gonna,
room.
yeah, I've always said that I'm gonna be buried with them. So who knows?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what I'll do with them. The only one I don't have is Bachi, because my mom was traveling actually when she passed away. She was with our neighbors who loved her. And because my mom was in Spain, like nobody really asked. And when I finally was like, "Where are Bachi's ashes?" My mom was like, "I didn't think you wanted them." And I was like,
Mm,
"Are you do you
yeah.
know what I do for a living? Like, are you crazy?"
Mm.
Well, actually, I hadn't even started my business, so my mom wouldn't have known. But yeah, so that is your answer. The answer is it depends. And even in country settings, like I think that there's some places that restrict it just because of the water supply. Like, we don't want anything
Mhm.
to leak into
Yeah.
the water supply. And if you're not burying properly, then obviously it's not necessarily the cleanest thing to do. Like that's why
Which
cemeteries
is
have like all sorts
really,
of requirements.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, I know.
yeah.
I remember going through that when my dad died because he's like, just put me in a pine box and like, wish we could.
Yeah, exactly.
Wish we
No, that's
could.
not allowed anymore.
I know.
Science has taught us that's not the best way.
Well, yeah, I know.
For
There's
our
so
water supply.
so much
Our water
so much
supply is
with that.
already screwed.
It's
I don't
already
need any more.
horrid,
Yeah. I
horrible,
don't need any more materials in
Lord.
there. So anyway, next week, if you have any recommendations for what we should cover, please let us
Please
know.
do.
If you don't have any recommendations, but you want to join us, it'll be at 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on Monday. And then after that, we're going to take a little hiatus because yours truly is going to be traveling again. I'm going to Florida for a long time. And then I'm going to the CFA International Cat Expo. If you don't follow CFA, I'll tag them in this post right now so that you can go follow them, because I'm doing a social media takeover of their event. So I will be covering the event live from there. It is a 15,000 person cat show with cat breeders, rescue cats, cat products, exhibitors, the whole nine. We talk about these pedigree breeds that do serve a purpose and do have a history and do need to be preserved, in my opinion. And then we also, leverage the cat adoptions, and we have cat agility there. I'm so excited to be a part of this year.
That
And
sounds
I cannot wait to
amazing.
bring it to you. Yeah, like if you're a cat lover, you've got to check in, follow CFA. If you don't, you can learn about these pedigree breeds because they do like share them all the time, and it's so fascinating what these these breeders are so dedicated to these pedigrees. Like this is not like backyard breeding when it comes to cats. It's very special. It's very small. It's very small numbers. Really, it's not common at all. It's very specialized and very boutique. And these cats are very expensive. So very few people are actually buying them unless they have like a true affinity for the breed. I'm more of a pick one up at the shelter kind of person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll be doing a lot of the coverage of the rescue part of the show.
Yay. That's so exciting. And I'm really looking forward to your social media takeover, Miss
Yes,
Influencer.
me too. Okay. No, I'm not an influencer. I'm a journalist. Gosh. I don't like the word influencer. I feel like when somebody has like skills like writing, journalism, advocacy, all these things that people do, and that's a shout out to like Nathan the cat lady and Sterling, that they're constantly being called influencers when they're advocates and thought leaders and difference makers. So like I just hate the word influencer to be used for somebody that's making a contribution to an industry like all of us are.
Yeah, we are. We're trying.
Nobody calls Katie Couric an influencer, right? She's a journalist. And like this is just journalism in the 2024. Like that's what this is.
Well, it is. And that's what I don't know who I was saying this to the other day, but I truly still believe like podcasting is the future of media. And
correct.
So, you know, people can laugh and joke and, oh, look at your little like whatever.
Your little podcast. How cute.
How cute. How's that little project you got going? You know what I mean? Like, it's the future
very
of media.
Well. Thanks for asking. Yes. Yeah, it is the future of media. As somebody, you know, I work for media companies, and I will tell you this: podcasting is on every one of my magazines has a podcast.
Yeah.
Big surprise. And they want more podcasts because they want to leverage more, especially for local magazines. It's a great way to, you know, get to people who are visiting your area. They'll listen to a podcast rather than pick up your magazine, which they don't have access to because it's a local magazine. So yeah, we'll finish off with Scott saying, I feel like I'm wearing a dunce hat every time I say I'm an influencer. You're not an influencer. You're a thought leader. How dare you call yourself an influencer? You are a leader in the raw feeding space in the pet industry. Like you are not an influencer. I would never refer to you as such. An influencer to me is somebody who just takes pictures for products, and like no hate on that, but like they're usually like a model or something like that where they're like, you know, using their platform to sell products. Miss Model over there. Or like what they do on TikTok where they're like, I'm gonna show you the product right here.
No, I have done that. I have because you have like
I know you have.
You won't.
I know you have. I've seen you do it, and I've called you out. I'm like, okay, TikTok. All right. She's like, have you seen this probiotic or this CBD oil? And I'm like, what's she doing over here? But yeah, we are thought leaders, Scott. I'm a journalist and writer specializing in the pet industry. You are a thought leader, as is Jessica has like a million titles. She's like an actual certified nutritionist. She's got a bunch of titles that she can use. And if somebody ever in my presence calls her an influencer, I will be sure to correct them.
You're funny. You're funny. I don't care what people call me as long as they feed their pets better.
Let me get off this soapbox.
Yeah, as long as they feed their pets better, I don't care what they call me.
You're a thought leader. Don't you forget it.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, thanks again. Let us know what you want to talk about next week. We will lead the thoughts and that whatever topic you want to talk about. We didn't get to the cat tree preferences, so we'll do that for a future one. We can do that for a future one because that one's a fun one to talk about. But maybe next week we talk about either do an Ask Me Anything or we can do something dog related because we've been focusing on our kitty friends for a while. So we'll be in touch. Message us if you have any recommendations. Have a great rest of the week. Thank you for starting off our week so nicely. It's always great to see you, Jessica. Great to talk to you, Scott. I will get your number from Jess. We can connect that way. And yeah, you guys have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.